Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Chicago White Sox March to October. Today we're just gonna sit back and relax and go through the stats from the regular season, do a little regular season recap like I always do in my March to October series. And just before we start, I want to ask if there's anybody watching this that's been following through the series and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, because once I get to 1,000 subscribers, I will start live streaming. We'll be live streaming March to October, so if you enjoy my March to Octobers and you want to see it happen live, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Help us get there. I'm going to try and rein myself in today, though. I usually get pretty carried away looking at stats. So the first thing is, let's look at how everything stacked up. We can already see who made the playoffs, but you know, it's fun to go through the divisions. And first of all, let's talk about us, because finishing with a record of 99 and 63 is not bad at all. And I really did not think we were going to get to this point. I think we were definitely helped along by the fact that the rest of the division was not good at all. Second place was that far under 500, 77 and 85. So I don't think we would have had this good of a record if the rest of the division was better. But we, you know, at the halfway point, or 100-ish games in, we weren't that far above 500 and we were not playing well. We finished the season really strong. So of all times to heat up, we did it at the right time. All right, but let's go through the rest. We got in the AL East, the Blue Jays won. They had the best record in the AL. Then you have the Yankees finishing in second place with 98 wins. The Red Sox did not make the playoffs, but they did finish over 500. The Rays didn't make it to 500. And then the Orioles actually probably did a little bit better than you'd expect. Head on over to the West. 92 wins for the Astros to take the division. That's going to be our first round opponents. We're used to facing them in the playoffs by now, through all my different March to Octobers. The Angels finished second in the division. They actually took a wild card spot. The Mariners finished one game back of that wild card spot. And then the Rangers and A's were pretty bad. The A's were probably the worst team. But yeah, man, the Angels 12 games back of the Yankees, but still finishing in that second wild card spot. And once you get there, you're on an even playing field. It doesn't matter how much better the Yankees were, and we've seen that because we can already see what happened in that wild card round, and the Angels did beat the Yankees, which is fun. If we get past Houston, we will see a new matchup. I don't think I've ever faced either the Angels or Toronto in the playoffs in a March to October yet. So for me, fun, fresh matchup if we can, you know, get to the ALCS. On to the National League, though. You got the Phillies finishing in first place in their division, and the Braves and the Mets both got to 90 wins. Braves and Mets also took home the two wild card spots. The Mets went on a 12-game winning streak to end the season. Wow, dude. So they were 79 and 71. And then they clutched it up at the end, got to 90 wins. The Marlins didn't even do that bad. They're actually ranked 11th in team rankings. They're in the top half. It's kind of weird to think of, but I think they're doing good in real life too. And then the Nationals finishing one loss short of 100. In the Central, the Brewers, they finally did good in a March to October that I didn't use them in. I feel like every time I do a different team's March to October, the Brewers, for whatever reason, are just not good. But they make it to 93 wins this year. They win the division. Both Central divisions very weak this year. And then you come to the West, and the Dodgers predictably finished with the best record in the entire league, 106 and 56. And they did it in a relatively strong division. I maybe not strong, because like you look at the East, you have two 90-win teams. The West just seemed to be more solid throughout, I guess. 3 teams over 500, and then the 1 team under 500 wasn't even that far below. And the Dodgers still managing to win the division by 21 games. The Diamondbacks, dude, they just fell apart. All right, and now it's time to get into our own stats. And for anybody who hasn't watched one of my stat recaps before, we have to do it this way, where we, you know, click triangle and look at everybody individually, because once you get to the postseason, the stats reset to postseason stats, so we can't just look at this screen for it. But yeah, we will start at the top of the lineup with TA. Got up to an 86 overall this year. He had pretty, you know, uniform upgrades across the board. Not too much, but still got some upgrades. He had a pretty good year by the end of it. He definitely turned things around, started hitting for more average. Couldn't quite get up to that 300 mark that he's been getting to. But with the increased number of walks he was drawing, the on base was pretty similar to last season. The slugging ended up higher. The strikeouts were lower. So overall, you could definitely say he had a better season than last year. Sets a career high in homers, ties a career high in doubles. I like seeing the walk numbers up and the strikeouts down simultaneously. 75 RBI out of the leadoff spot. The only thing I'm not liking is how many times he was caught stealing. We're gonna see that on everybody, like even when we get to Grandal with his 6-speed or whatever it is, 3-speed, I don't even remember, but for some reason the CPU just likes stealing, even with people who it's just not working for. And yeah, he actually finished with the highest wins above replacement in his career, beating out all 3 of these years. I mean, I'm sure if you extend 2020 season to a full season, that might have him beat. But yeah, by the end of it, good season out of TA. Next, we'll go to Luis Robert. He had a lot of progression, +7 on the power against righties, +7 on the vision and discipline. That's actually big. The fielding's getting better. He'll be a diamond fielder by maybe even next season. And he ended with, I think, an identical batting average to Tim. Yeah, 286. He was worrying me at the start because remember, he got off to a really slow start for us. And then I managed to actually play really well in his player lock. We got a 3+ for him, and that definitely turned around his season. He had a lot of power come through in the end. Got up to 31 homers by the end of it. 36 doubles, drove in 72. And look at these numbers, man. 60 walks with only 97 strikeouts. He didn't even strike out 100 times. That is huge. And he drew, you know, a solid number of walks. So his on base up over 350. OPS couldn't quite touch 900, but 889 is definitely still good. Pretty good stealing bases. 21 steals to only 5 caught stealing attempts. Only made 2 errors in the field, and he finishes with a 7 WAR season. I mean, that is awesome to see. And it's his walk percentage doubled, strikeout percentage cut down by 5%. So yeah, man, great stuff out of Luis Robert, and we get to keep him for 3 more years at the very least, and he might touch 99 overall. I don't know what his potential rating is in the back end of things because you can't look at that in March to October, but if he has the chance to get up to a 99, I feel like he will get up to a 99 during the course of this series. Jose Abreu is next, and this is, you know, kind of bittersweet because this is probably his last season on the White Sox. He regressed a lot. I don't remember what his starting overall was, but it might have been 84, 85. And he lost quite a bit. -7s against righties, -12 contact and 6 power against lefties, -8 to his fielding. But you know what? He still turned in a pretty solid season. He couldn't quite get to that trademark Jose Abreu 30 homer, 100 runs driven in season, but he still got pretty close to it. 25 bombs, 89 driven in. 270 on the batting average. So yeah, I mean, you definitely see the drop off, you know, lower slugging, lower on base, but he definitely had a good season for us. The wins above replacement, half of what he had last year, but he's striking out a little bit less. So this is probably it for him because we have replacements, we have Sheets, we have Vaughn, and you know, his contract is up. So I don't know. If we have a chance to bring him back for cheap, like I'm talking 1-year deal, 5 mil max maybe, I might bring him back because he could still be a pretty solid player, especially against lefties. But chances are this is, you know, that's probably the curtain call for him this year. And I forgot to mention the Tim Anderson contract situation. I think I brought it up before, but they don't have his 2 option years because I'm pretty sure his real life contract, you got team options for 23 and 24. But in this, he's just a straight up free agent after this year. But he's a must bring back kind of player, I feel like. All right, on to Grandal. He finishes as the highest overall player on our starting roster, and he didn't have much regression. I mean, in his overall, he didn't regress at all. 33 years old. Contact got a little better. Vision got a little better. Power only went down 1. And he put together a good season. 35 homers. The average, the batting average went way up, especially compared to his career, man. But the slugging numbers stayed there. He actually had the highest slugging percentage in his career. He almost walked as many times as he struck out, 91 walks. That was up there close to league leading, I think. And I'm pretty sure his wins above replacement is, yeah, off the charts, dude. 8.8 wins above replacement. Are you kidding me? That is crazy. I don't think he would be in any sort of MVP conversations, because I remember seeing Devers and I remember seeing Mike Trout, and Grandal did not quite have the same season as either of them. But dude, what a year, and we get him for one more season. So I'm, definitely looking forward to keeping him around. Eloy is next, and he was our main power hitter at the start, but he ended up getting caught up to. But what a season he turned in. I mean, a lot of progression. You like seeing the contact go up that much, especially against lefties. +4 to both contact and power against righties. His fielding even went up a bit. And yeah, man, 38 doubles, 35 homers, 121 runs driven in. Didn't walk a ton, but he also didn't strike out a ton. The OPS up right around 950. Wish he didn't steal as much, because he doesn't need to be doing that. And he finishes with only a 3.3 wins above replacement. I have to believe that isn't higher purely because of maybe his fielding and maybe his stolen base percentage. That'd be my guess. And maybe his walk percentage, maybe if you walked a little bit more. But we've got him for 2 more years after this one under contract, so we'll probably see him get to around a 90 overall by that point. And I wish we did have a chance, unless maybe it doesn't pop up that first season. Maybe it only happens once you initiate that second year, but we didn't have a chance to like extend contracts this year, which would have been nice for someone like TA. But maybe in the future, if you go past the first season, you will start getting those chances to extend players. So maybe we can extend Eloy before we have to worry about signing him back as a free agent. Yohan Moncada in this 6th hole, and he put together quietly one of the better seasons we had. He got some decent progression across the board. I just don't like seeing the contact go down against lefties, but everything else is nice. And yeah, I mean, the power wasn't quite there compared to the rest of the team, but he's still at 19 homers, 1 short of 20. But the strikeout numbers are down, which it seems like they're down for everyone, so that's good. The walks, he didn't quite walk as much as maybe he typically did, but I mean, the on-base percentage is still up there. OPS of 822, he plays a solid third base, and he turns in a 4.3 WAR season. So I mean, we had, not like Yohan Moncada isn't, and not like he can't be a star for this team, but this team already has its stars. I mean, all 3 of these top guys. So you don't need, star players at every position. And if this is going to be your quote-unquote role players stats, that's the makings of a pretty good team. And we have him under contract for a couple more years, so with his A potential, he definitely could turn into just another star player for us. AJ Pollock next, and he had a really good season. I mean, I'm saying that about everyone. Everyone had a really good season. But at 34 years old, he actually had a little bit of progression, +5 on that power against righties, boosted his overall a little. And he had 35 homers. I think 35 is the team high. And him, Eloy, and then Grandal all tied at 35 to lead the team. But yeah, I mean, it seems like everyone is just the same. This was how it was early in the year when everyone wasn't like heated up yet. Everyone was playing pretty much the same, and then once everyone heated up, it's like they all heated up at the same time and ended with similar numbers. But yeah, I mean, kind of like some other guys, not going to walk a ton, but he also didn't strike out a ton. He did do better stealing bases though, so that's good. 278 average, 330 on base, OPS just under 900. And then over to WAR 3.3, just like Eloy in the other corner. Now on to Vaughn, and dude, Vaughn. He was the revelation of the team this year. I'm pretty sure he started at a 72 overall. So he goes up 6 overall points throughout the year. Even if he started at a 73, that's still a ton of progression to go up 5. Plus 6 to both powers, plus 8 to his contact versus lefties. I definitely like to see those numbers against righties keep going up, but they did. Plus 3 and plus 6, so they're getting there, and he played well against against righties this year. Definitely well against lefties. And yeah, man, a breakout season if I've ever seen one. 26 bombs, 23 doubles, 3 triples. He played in the same number of games as he did last year, but somehow had way more at-bats. But man, if I would have been starting him from the start, he probably could have had a chance to hit that 30 homer mark. But I went with, you know, the Sheets platoon at first, and Sheets just, we'll get to him, but he didn't play that great. But yeah, man, 44 walks, not a super high amount, but when you're only striking out 69 times, you don't need to walk a ton more because you're making contact. It does give him a 362 on base, average over 300. He might be the only one that finished over 300, now that I think about it. Or wait, no, Eloy had a 306 average. But yeah, he didn't have a ton of, you know, fielding opportunities. Only has a 2.5 WAR season, but I feel like, you know, he played better than you'd think of a 2.5 wins above replacement guy playing. This dude was a beast at the plate, and he's just gonna keep getting better. Only 23. He's got that A potential. He went up 6 this year, so if he goes up 6 again, now he's an 84. And then on to the final batter, the 9-hole hitter throughout the whole year, Leury. And dude, Leury had a good season. I know within the White Sox fan community, there's a lot of Leury haters, and you can put my name at the top of that list. I just wish, you know, the White Sox would move on from him. But in this season, in the game, he definitely had his role that he filled. 9-hole hitter, getting on base a lot, hardly was striking out. He actually hit 10 homers, double-digit homers for the first time in his career. You know, just like with some other guys, I wish he'd try and steal less, but dude, you cannot say that this was a bad season for him. And he wasn't originally supposed to be the starter. It was going to be Josh Harrison, and then Leury was just going to be the platoon guy, but Harrison got off to a really bad start, so I went with Leury pretty much from the beginning after just a couple games, and he came in and had a great year. 2.4 wins above replacement from your 9-hole hitter. Now on to the bench, and we did see some changes in the bench throughout the course of the year. You know, Harrison started, and then he went to the bench, and then he got sent down, and then he got called back up. Collins started down in AAA, and he got called up. But we'll start with Sheets, who I mentioned before that we did originally want to have him in that platoon role, and I might even try it again next year, honestly, because he should not be bad against righties. 71 contact, 83 power. That needs to play better than it did. But yeah, he didn't have the power numbers this year. Only 8 homers, only batted 229. He did draw a decent amount of walks though, so his on base was quite a bit higher than his average. But yeah, the one thing that he was supposed to do, he didn't do, which is hit nukes off of righties. So he finishes with a negative WAR, but I still have some faith in him. I think he'll keep progressing with that B potential and being young. I don't think you're gonna have this bad of a season again with those attributes against righties. So we're definitely not looking to move on from him at all, and we've got him under control for a little while. Then you come to Josh Harrison. Like I said, he started the year in the starting lineup, quickly got moved to the bench, then got sent down for Romy. Then I brought him back up after we got an attribute boost player lock with him, so he finishes even when it comes to regression. I mean, if it wasn't for that attribute boost player lock, he would have regressed a decent amount. And you know, he didn't play great, but he definitely played better after we called him back up. I think by the time we sent him down, he had a wins above replacement of -1, so he almost brought that back even. But hey, I mean, as long as he's playing better recently, and now that he is a better player with some of his attributes going up, taking this player into the postseason on the bench, I'm fine with that. Then we come to Zach Collins. Dude, Zach Collins, are you kidding me? So Zach Collins, we had the fast track with him early in the season that I failed, and then we were lucky enough to get a second chance at a fast track, and that time I didn't fail. Brought him up to the big leagues, had another attribute boost player lock with him once that happened, got him even better. Goes up 22 and 23 on his contact numbers, discipline up to 99. The vision went up 20. The fielding even up to 50. So he's actually, you know, not just a bag of jelly behind the plate. He can actually do something. The potential went up to an A. So, you know, 27 years old, doesn't have a whole lot of time to get there. But as long as he can be a high 70s, low 80s guy, I mean, that's more than enough for a backup catcher. And then once Grandal and his contract expire, we could definitely rely on him to be a starter, I think, because we've got him under team control for 3 more years after this one with arbitration. Again, I don't know how arbitration is going to work in the offseason, but I'm assuming it should be easy enough to bring him back. But yeah, man, in his only 19 games after being brought up, he was just dominant. I mean, he almost got on base half the time he stepped up to the plate. Barely struck out. He even stole a base. OPS almost at 1100 and a 1.1 WAR in just 19 games. I mean, if you extend that to a whole season and he played like that for a whole 162 game season, that's like an 8-win player, which is ridiculous to think of Zach Collins as. Then we come to Adam Engel, the final bench spot. Pretty much what you'd expect out of Adam Engel, and you don't really need a whole lot more. He's just going to be that speed fielding guy off the bench, and anything you can get from him at the plate is kind of a bonus. He hits 9 homers, which I think, yeah, that's a career high. 14 doubles, 5 triples, 5 for 5 in stolen base opportunities. So yeah, I can't really, you know, be upset with this season, and he has a wins above replacement of 1.1. So solid bench piece there, and he is a free agent next year. Don't know if I'm going to make it a super high priority to bring him back, but if he's easy to bring back, then why not, you know? On to pitching. But Lance Lynn, to start things off, he wasn't progressing all year, and then right at the end, he went up to an 88 plus 3 hits per 9, probably because of that no-hitter. But you're always, it seems like every March to October, the innings pitched number is just way up there. You don't have to worry about injuries in March to October, so nobody's going to miss a start. But it also seems like, based on those numbers, the CPU just leaves your starter in. But he goes 15 and 12, not the best record, but it's not really on him. The rest of his numbers, man, he gets to over 200 strikeouts. ERA even at 3. The whip we already saw was the lowest in the league. 0.88, 4.8 wins above replacement, and yeah, I mean, those are ace numbers. I just wish, you know, the strikeouts were a little bit more, but I don't know. I just feel like they haven't really cracked the code yet on strikeout per 9 ratings actually translating to high strikeout totals in the game. And we'll see that with some of these other guys. Well, let's move on to Giolito, who, first of all, I don't understand how he starts the season at only a 67 Ks per 9, but he gets some nice progression throughout the year. He's up to an 86 now, and he had a pretty good year. Maybe actually his best year. But yeah, this is just what I don't understand. I mean, we see ever since Giolito became good, he's had way more strikeouts than innings pitched, and then somehow that only translates to a 67 Ks per 9. And now all of a sudden he's striking out less guys than innings pitched, but you know, he still had a good year, so what am I complaining about? 226 innings pitched, 210 strikeouts, 58 walks, 3.03 ERA. The whip's looking good. He had some complete games, 4.1 wins above replacement. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, the last 3 seasons, 10, 12, and then 11.5 on his Ks per 9, and now he dips to under 8.5. Next up to KOPECH, who, I mean, he became our 3rd best pitcher, and he's challenging Giolito to become the 2nd best. He put together a nice season's worth of progression. We like to see the walks per 9 definitely going up as much as it did. But even though he only had 65 stamina, he throws 212 innings. He did have a good amount of strikeouts, 231. That was up there for the league lead, I'm pretty sure. Only the 56 walks. The ERA a little high, but it was high all year, and I don't know if I worry about it. Like, if he's gonna strike out batters and not walk a ton of batters, the ERA is probably gonna come down next season. I guess he did allow kind of a high amount of home runs, but his home runs per 9 went up as much as anything else, more than everything else besides walks per 9. So I feel like that won't be as much of an issue next year as we move on. But 4.1 wins above replacement. I still though, man, I mean, 81 Ks per 9 is his rating. That seems pretty high, and he finishes with not even a 10 Ks per 9. I don't know, maybe I'm overestimating what he should be able to do. Then we move on to Cease, who also had a good year. We see his Ks per 9, walks per 9, and home runs per 9 all go up a good amount. And I mean, he's pretty much the same story as KOPECH. Throws over 200 innings again, struck out a lot of guys, walked a bit more than KOPECH, so his whip was a bit higher. ERA a little bit above 4. 3.8 wins above replacement, and yeah, he's another guy I'm not worried about. We've got him for a few more seasons. He's going to keep getting better. Our pitching's looking good right now. Actually, I forgot to check this. We do have to worry about bringing back Giolito after this season. So hopefully he doesn't cost too much, and hopefully we can lock him up for a decent chunk of time. We do have LYNN for another year locked in, and then KOPECH and Cease are both under arbitration. But then the final starter to talk about is Dallas Keuchel, who somehow, some way put together a solid year. Goes for 221 innings, doesn't strike out a ton of guys, gives up a lot of homers, but other than the homers, didn't give up a ton of runs, it seems like. Finishes with an ERA of about 3.5, a whip under 1.2, 7 complete games for him, 6 of them shutouts. I don't know how he ended up this good, but hey, I will take it. For a 73 overall, to have this good of a season, not bad. I was waiting for it to fall apart and it never did. I'm not going to be bringing him back though. I just don't think there's the need. I mean, he's going to keep regressing. We've got LOPEZ and LUZARDO who are going to keep progressing. We've also got, I think, a couple of decent minor leaguers who could come up and be a starter. That'd be better than him. And there's the offseason to look for a 5th starter. But speaking of LOPEZ and LUZARDO, our 2 long relievers and Reynaldo Lopez. I mean, give him a round of applause. What a season he had as a long reliever. Throws 108 innings out of the bullpen, averaging over 2 innings an appearance. So truly a long reliever, but he has a 2.08 ERA, and it was like under 1 for a big chunk of the year too. Didn't strike out a whole lot of guys, but I guess that didn't really matter. 2.08 ERA, the whip at 1.17. He has a wins above replacement of 1.1, which, you know, that's your long reliever contributing that much. I find that crazy. He's definitely sticking around. I mean, we got to sign him. We got to make the conscious effort to do that. But, I mean, if he's going to play this well, I don't want to get rid of him at all. Then we come to LUZARDO, who is like our 2nd long reliever. We traded for him midway-ish through the season. He got some nice progression, being young and a B potential. We've got him for a while under team control. Only the 62 stamina, so like a little bit on the hesitant side to move him to a starter. And that's actually something I forgot to mention with KOPECH, is I wonder, and there's no way to like check this. We'll never actually get to go back and check it, I think, but I'd be very curious to know if a lot of his runs allowed came late in starts. Because to throw 212 innings with only 65 stamina, I mean, if you do the math and take the average, 212 innings divided by 32 starts, he was averaging 6.5 or over 6.5 innings per start. So plenty of starts went 7 innings plus for him. He had 4 complete games. But that makes me wonder if, you know, the CPU manager was kind of overextending him, and maybe when he starts running low on energy, he starts giving up some runs. So maybe if his starts were kept to 5 or 6 innings, maybe we see that ERA way lower. Just a thought, just an interesting thought. Nothing we'll be able to do. Like, I can't control that. The games just get simmed. But anyway, back to LUZARDO. When we traded for him, his ERA was up around 4. Now it's under 4, so that means he had to have done well with us. I think he threw about 50 innings for us, if I remember right. But yeah, solid number of strikeouts. Didn't walk too many guys this year. Finishes with a 3.6 WAR. I'm guessing most of that came from when he was a starter, but I actually don't know how he has a higher WAR than Reynaldo Lopez by that much. Then on to Graveman, who wasn't as dominant as I kind of hoped for at the start, but he turned in an alright season. Apparently his potential went up. His overall went up 1 also. But yeah, near the beginning of the season, he just kind of couldn't put it together. Seems like he did. The ERA finished under 4, but he got a lot of work. 46 innings, struck out 49, didn't walk a ton. Well, actually, maybe he kind of did. You kind of want to see those walk numbers a little bit lower. but the whip wasn't bad. He didn't give up too many base hits. I also remember I had a couple outings with him that weren't that great, but he still should be a reliable arm. I mean, a 5-pitch mix, you got to rely on that in the postseason. Then Christian Javier, dude. First trade I made of the year. He barely pitched for us, it felt like. And I didn't use him until that extra inning game against the A's. And in just 2 innings of work, he might have become one of my go-to relievers now, because that sweeping curve looked absolutely unhittable. Struck out 5 of 6 batters I faced when I used him. But yeah, he's on the young side. 3 years of service, so we get him for a couple more years too. Don't know if he's really going to progress because he's got C potential and he's already a 75. But I also don't know if we really need him to. I mean, he should be a solid arm as is, and he threw 30 innings this year with an ERA of 2.08. Good amount of strikeouts. The walks, you know, a little high, but I honestly would have expected even more with what his walk per 9 rating is, being only a 36. So I can live with that. I can live with that number of walks with that rating. You know, if it starts getting a little higher, then we gotta worry. But for now, it's fine. Then Kyle Crick. I mean, he was in the setup role for a lot of this year, and our bullpen changed a lot throughout the year. We started with, I think it was 4 guys in the 60s. 3 of them got sent down. Lopez just improved enough that he was no longer in the 60s, but Kyle Crick went from one of the back end relievers to just kind of a guy. He's actually the lowest rated guy now, but he had a good year. Didn't get a ton of work. Only 18 1/3, but he got 13 holds in his time as a setup guy, even a couple saves. I mean, the ERA under 1.5 and a whip at 0.71. Maybe this guy should get used more. Then we go to Aaron Bummer, and the first thing that catches my eye is he had a lot of progression, and I don't know if that's something I really anticipated. But he's up to an 81. Again, he didn't get a lot of work. I really wish we could force the hand of the simulation machine and give him more work. But in his time, he has an even 9 Ks per 9. Only gave up 2 homers, 2.25 ERA. The whip really low. Didn't walk many guys at all. So yeah, good season from him. I just want to see more of him, you know? Then we go to Will Smith. We got him pretty late. Another guy who didn't get a ton of work. Yeah, I think he doubled his workload once we traded for him because the Braves weren't using him either. I don't know. I feel like you can't really judge him in that amount of innings because I think he had 1 bad outing where he gave up 3 runs, and that's gonna skew the numbers. I mean, he had 17 outings. 16 of them were probably really good, but because of that one, he just kind of looks like an average pitcher. But he's definitely gonna be big for us through the postseason. Another high-rated lefty arm. He was a rental. Might not bring him back. Probably won't, actually. But hey, we'll see. But Crochet is definitely the priority to bring back. And then the closer, Liam Hendriks, highest overall player on the team at a 94. Progressed a little bit, but he picks up 32 saves for us in 45 innings pitched, 56 strikeouts to only 7 walks, even 3 ERA, the whip at 0.82. I mean, just another good season out of him. Not quite as good as 2021, but still a really good season. The FIP at under 2. And we have him for another year, so the closer spot is still locked down for now. But I do want to look at one last thing because we can see some progression of players in the minors. We can't go into the roster screen. We can't go into trade management to be able to see everybody. But we can kind of see some key players if we look at the depth chart and then go to the future here. So we see this is just their projected rating by 2023. But right now, Colson Montgomery's 70. Good progression from him in the minors. I'm glad I'm hanging on to him because, especially if we can't get Tim Anderson back, depending on what ends up happening, we might see Montgomery a little bit sooner than we expect. We also have Wes Kath progressing, not quite as much as Montgomery did, but nice little progression. He seems like he's a little bit further along when it comes to hitting than Montgomery. So even though he's a little bit lower overall, I could see seeing him sooner. And he's a year younger, so that's nice too. Who else do we get to see here? Romy. He progressed a little bit. He had some major league experience this year. Didn't play that great, but hopefully he could be a good utility guy once we can get rid of Larry. But Larry, we have Larry for a couple more years, so I guess I don't really have to worry about that, especially if he's gonna play well. Who else can we look at? Matt Thompson, Matthew Thompson, didn't actually progress that much. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but he's getting pretty close. I mean, we could see him by maybe not next season, but the season after if we didn't go out and sign a big starter at any point. Sean Burke, another guy I didn't trade away at one point because, I don't know, see potential. He's young. He could get up to a maybe solid 70 something. We do have the Garrett Crochet situation. I mean, I wish we could have had him throughout the year. Sucks that we didn't, but he needs to be brought back. And I've resigned myself to the fact that we are going to have to sign him as just a straight up free agent, which is so dumb because we should have the team control for many more years. But just because of how it works, how they handle rosters with injuries, now we have to go out and sign him. And he's already an 86, so he's gonna take a lot of money to bring back, but he is like priority number one, even higher than Tim Anderson. Because if we can have, I mean, he'll be a 90 by next season. So if we can have that high of an overall guy in the bullpen, that's worth every penny. And the last guy I see that's really worth looking at here is maybe ADOLFO. We had a fast track with him, so we got him a nice boost. Now he's actually a usable prospect. Maybe one more year of development depending on how the team shapes out, and he'll be in the big leagues. But yeah, we got a nice boost to him when it comes to contact. His fielding solid enough, his speed solid enough. I could definitely see, unless I end up trading him away for someone big, I could definitely see him coming up to the major league team and having an impact. Maybe we even get another fast track with him next year, and if that happens, that would be huge. So yeah, that is where we're gonna come to the end of this one. I feel like I should apologize in some capacity for this taking as long as it did, but you know, I mean, if you've been around for any of my other March to Octobers, you saw this coming. Every time I do the regular season stat recap, I go overboard. I get too into it. But if you stuck around to this point, thanks. We will obviously be starting the postseason in the next one, taking on Houston. But yeah, that is it for this one, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for sticking around, and I will see you next time to start the postseason.